Okay, so hi people. We are having a session on clinical research, which is a very important thing for the pharmaceutical industry. And we are having a collaboration of two YouTube channels. And this is our first session. And of course, so my friend Saurabh, he's in India, he's in Pune, India, and I am in Sweden. I'm currently in Stockholm, and it's 24 degrees, so it's actually like it's in the middle of summer. And in fact, tomorrow there's going to be the midsummer celebration, which is a pretty major holiday in Sweden. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Great.
And
We have monsoon in India.
yeah, of course. And
Yeah,
how's it going? How's the monsoon going?
it's starting. It's slow now, but it should pick up the pace.
Uh,
So yeah,
that's oh, sorry about that.
yeah.
So yeah, this is our YouTube channel, and this is a collaboration between both our channels. And so this is Saurabh's channel. This is Clinical Aim Research and Clinical Research. He has two. He also has courses on clinical research. Saurabh, do you want to talk a little bit about the courses that you
Yeah,
have? Yeah.
yeah, sure. We are doing this collaboration in order to spread the clinical research community and also spread knowledge about the career options that the pharmaceutical and life sciences student we have. So, in Clinical Aim Research, it's an organization where we offer educational courses. So, a lot of time it happens that people do not have the formal training or education in terms of clinical research. So, in order to provide that quality training as well as to help them start a career, so we provide a foundation course for it. And obviously, as Aditi said, that we both are clinical researchers ourselves, and we are interested in spreading the word to people in sciences so that clinical research is quite evident to everyone and they can do a good career out of it.
That's really nice. So this is my channel, Alpha to Omega. So the reason I would also like to talk about why I chose Alpha to Omega as a name, because of course all of us who have studied science, we know how often Alpha and Omega and these values are used, and also in English, because Alpha Omega, they are very ancient, they're very old words. It is Alpha to Omega signifies the end, the very end to the very beginning, and that's kind of what that's the scope of my channel. That's what I wanted to be, because of course I've been in the clinical research industry myself. I've worked there, but of course not as long as Saurabh. But and right now I have explored a domain which combines a lot of clinical research and drug discovery and statistics and machine learning and other things. So it's basically my channel will be focused a lot on the pharmaceutical industry, and I'll try to my level best to get out different aspects about the pharmaceutical industry and try to go to the into the depth. So which is why Alpha to Omega. So my channel is pretty new, but hopefully I can get out some good content. And so I just want to introduce both of us before we get into the topic. So this is Saurabh. He is educated in Institute of Bioinformatics and Biotechnology, and he did an integrated bachelor's and master's program. And Saurabh and I worked together, and that's actually where we met uh, in our PG diploma, our postgraduate diploma in clinical research, clinical data management, and pharmacovigilance in Midcon Biopharma. And he started his clinical research career in KEM Hospital and Research Center as a clinical research coordinator. And then he went on to ICMR National AIDS Research Institute as a clinical research associate. and now he's in Diagnosearch Life Sciences as a clinical research associate. Uh, he has a lot of experience in vaccine trials, trials related to AIDS, trials related to mRNA vaccine, and he also has a patent, and he also has two patents, right, Saurabh? You have two patents
A patent and couple of publications.
and a couple of publications, and yeah, so he's got a pretty impressive CV and a lot of experience. So this is me. I've done my Bachelor's of Pharmaceutical Science in Manipal College of Pharmaceutical Science. We were in our postgraduate diploma together in Midcon Biopharma, which is located in Pune, and we did the same clinical research. Postgraduate diploma in clinical research, and I did a master's degree and in an integrated degree in pharmaceutical science. But I mean, my specialization went a lot into a domain called pharmaceutical modeling, which is to do with, application of programming, statistics, data science, and other domains like computational chemistry and bioinformatics in the pharmaceutical industry. And I did my thesis in a domain which is called nanoinformatics, where I applied machine learning to uh, the nanomedicines basically. And my work experience has been that I have had a sales role in, I started my career with a sales role in Himalaya Drug Company. And I was a clinical research coordinator myself in Sancheti Hospital and Research Center. And I've done project based work in the application of machine learning and other in silico techniques to drug discovery. And I would like sort of, because of his
Yeah,
really good
sure.
experience and really deep experience in clinical research, to talk more about this. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Saurabh, it's
So
your platform now.
thank you, Aditi. So the thing is, why this series? Because that should be the fundamental question. Why are we doing this series? So first and foremost, it is very imperative that we not only look at clinical research as a dogmatic career, but we also need to discuss the cutting edge technology in clinical research, because that is what essentially progresses the drug development as well as the drug transition from your lab table to the patient's table. Okay, so that's the first and foremost thing. Second thing is that we also we belong to India, but she Aditi moved for her doctoral studies for in Sweden. So we were very curious to understand what are the differences between the clinical research scenario in India versus Sweden, so that we get a comprehensive idea of the Asian as well as the European clinical research scenario. The third thing is, a lot of time it happens that we get so much entangled in our respective career that we miss the knowledge sharing part, we miss to discuss the key issues. So that will be also one of the focus areas in this particular series. Next thing is, this will be a kind of academic and professional collaboration in terms of which means that since I also am a part of an educational institute which teaches clinical research, and also I'm myself a clinical research professional, and so is Aditi. So we will bring a lot of diverse topics and a lot of diverse experience, which will help the viewers or the students to understand clinical research more comprehensively. And the next aspect would be that this particular series would act as a discussion forum. We would also go live based on the requirement and support from the viewers, so that we can focus on the betterment of clinical research. Because working in clinical research is one part of the thing, but as professionals we also have to think about how we are going to take clinical research in the next century. What are the challenges, what are the hurdles, and how are we going to face them, or can we suggest any solution? And based on these educated discussions, we are going to take clinical research forward, and that is what I mean by betterment of clinical research. So these
Okay.
are the fundamental reason why we started this series. Yeah.
And yeah. What, according to you, and what is the official sort of definition of clinical research that you want
Yeah,
to
yeah.
tell the viewers?
See, the thing is, this is for everyone who even doesn't understand what those words mean. What is clinical research for fundamentally? So you need to understand that when we say clinical research, so it means that a kind of research which is conducted on people. Okay, so people's research, any kind of scientific research conducted on human subjects, can be broadly termed as clinical research. So in healthcare, so what we do is essentially when you go from drug discovery to drug development, we develop a drug in the laboratory. Then the same drug moves to animal testing. Okay, and based on animal testing, you need to get approvals for human testing. And once the human testing is completed, then you go to the regulatory authorities, the US FDA, the CDSCO, even the Swedish regulatory agency, and you ask them to grant the approval. Okay, but this sounds a very steady process, but it is not. It involves a lot of factors. So essentially clinical research involves the testing of the safety of a particular drug, medication, or a vaccine. Next thing is, it is not only limited to drugs or vaccine, it is also encompasses the diagnostic products, the medical devices. Okay, and the focus of clinical research is to prevention of disease. Okay, in terms of vaccine, it is also for the treatment, as we have seen a couple of weeks ago that they have successfully performed a clinical trial in which the cancer was completely eradicated in the study participant, and that was one of the biggest news. And that is why we work as a clinical research professionals, because no matter how many drug or the test samples we have, we always do research to focus on the eradication of the disease. And cancer, as we know, that it was some time back a disease where you didn't even think of eradicating it because it was terminal in its definition itself. But through clinical research, through modern medicine, we have to perform these experiments. And clinical research is broadly that bigger experiment where you prevent the disease, treat the disease, perform diagnosis for that particular disease. So that would be one of the aspects how you could explain clinical research. Next thing we would do is, not every time clinical research involves giving medication. So clinical trial could also be observational in nature, where you could observe, for example, in behavioral study. So there is a stimulus involved and you observe the changes in the behavior of the study participant or the subjects. So that is observational study. Then interventional study means where you intervene, where you introduce drugs or the medications. And there are multi-arm studies for the normal studies, placebo studies, control studies. So we will go that into details in the next series of these discussions. And it is very important to understand that why we do clinical research. So we do clinical research in order to find out if a particular drug molecule is, or this new treatment is more effective, because we might have currently medication for headache. You can take paracetamol, but what if I have a medication which is equally effective or more effective? So that uh, claim to have more effective medication, so that needs to be scientifically validated, and that can only be done through clinical research. Second thing is, even if I have a medication which is better, so does it have a side effect which is higher or lower? Because the fundamental of clinical research is not only to find a better medication, but to reduce the side effects also, to improve safety also. So if I have a medication which is equally effective, but it is more safer, it has lesser side effects, so that can also be a very good drug. Next thing is, we always compare this to the standard treatment. For example, as we have spoken about the cancer trial, so we will always compare that to the previous particular treatment. So as compared to that treatment, what does our drug do? So there are a lot of COVID-19 vaccine, there are a lot of mRNA vaccine. So what is the efficacy of the vaccine and which vaccine is better than the other? Better in terms of the resistance to COVID-19 and as well as the safety point of view. So this is essentially what clinical research is.
Mhm.
So that is about clinical research.
Yeah.
And yeah. So this is one of the most critical aspects of clinical research, the career into it, because there is a perception between a lot of people that clinical research can only be done through someone who works in a lab or someone who has a PhD, but that is not correct, or that is not a correct representation, because clinical research professional, I'll tell you, 95% of the professional do not have a doctorate degree, which essentially means that there are a lot of functional area in clinical research where you do not need that much of education, but you need to have a scientific background. And also, unfortunately, what happens is during our masters or even our bachelor's courses, we have a tangential introduction to clinical research, but we do not have a theoretical, wholesome understanding of clinical research. And even if you have that much of understanding in terms of courses you do, so that courses which Aditi and I pursued, we could afford it, but there are a lot of people who do not have that much financial resources, and unfortunately they miss out on a good career option. So for that point of view, why I started the educational arm, that is clinical aim research, so that we could help people not only in terms of the jobs or the career good, but it also has to be fair and level playing field. Okay, so what I would like to tell you as a career opportunity is anyone who has a degree in life sciences and who is interested in pursuing healthcare and clinical research, he does not necessarily have to be a doctor or a scientist, but it is very imperative that you have a formal certification in clinical research where you learn the basic concepts, because you are entering into a new field, and there it is very important to have the theoretical understanding and the concepts so that you can build a strong fundamental. So that is the first thing I would suggest, to go on and do your certification so that you could correctly gauge how clinical research career is and if it is for you. Second thing is, which I have done myself and even Aditi did, we started
Yeah.
the clinical research from the bottom itself,
But I want to
because
say something about the
yeah, yeah,
certification, if you don't
sure,
mind,
sure, sure.
since we're
Yeah, yeah,
talking
go on.
about finances. So the
Yeah, yeah.
certification is actually free to do. It's from, if I'm, I mean, at least it's from a lot of websites, a lot of official websites give you
Hmm.
that certification as long as you meet the requirements. So it's not that you, it's not free in the sense, because you are putting in time, you're investing, you're learning, and then you're giving the exams. But it is financially, it's a level playing field because you don't have to pay for that certification. So
No,
this is
no, no.
something I wanted
In
to
terms
say.
of the GCP certification and that, there are a lot of things. But what happens is, as
Mhm.
we did diploma, so there are online certification, but it is very important that you could interact and learn that in a traditional teacher and student setting.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
a lot of time, what happens is, even if I take a lot of interviews of students, they have understanding of phase one, phase two, phase three, phase four trials. But when I ask them that what about the regulatory authorities, which are the new NDCT rules, or even what is the constitution of an ethics committee, so that for that I said that you need to have a formal certification so that you can build your fundamentals. ICA, GCP and other crash courses they can do, but if you're looking for a strong fundamental career to form, so that is why I suggested that you can do a certification. You can also do diploma like us, but to be honest, I think a certification would suffice if you are properly motivated. So that was the thing. And as I was coming to the beginning, from the start, so working as clinical research coordinators, so yeah, I mean, even I and Aditi, we were working in biotechnology and pharma sector, respectively. But the thing is, we wanted to pursue clinical research as a career, and for that it is not only sacrifice in terms of number of years or the diploma certification we had to take, but also in terms of the position that we worked in, because both of us had masters, and we started career from clinical research coordinators. Essentially, when you enter the field of clinical research, the basic and the fundamental position is the clinical research coordinator. Essentially, you are responsible to conduct the clinical trial, and not the most glamorous position, to be honest. But the thing is, over the years, I have realized that it is not the money itself that would should be a motivation for you. It should be the gradual learning, the experience,
Mhm.
and along with that, the money obviously comes. So a lot of
Yeah.
people ask us that should I directly go and be a CRA because I get paid well. But the thing is, until and unless you know how the trial is conducted, you cannot audit that trial, which is the fundamental role of a CRA. So that is why I wanted to mention the career pathway. So you should start as a CRC, move on to CTA, to CRA, to senior CRA, and then to APM and project manager, because it is not only in terms of money, but it is in terms of gradual increase in the work responsibility in the role and the comprehensive understanding that you get. So that should be your career
Yeah.
pathway. Yeah, yeah.
Saurabh, just
Go
for
ahead,
our
Abhi.
viewers,
Yeah.
because since many of them may be new or may not be new, can you tell us the full forms of CRA and I mean in this?
Sure, sure, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I missed to mention them. So
Mm.
CRC stand for Clinical Research Coordinator. CTA would be Clinical Trial Associate. Okay, and CRA would be Clinical Research Associate. So the CRC is the one who works at the research site and the hospitals. The CTA or the Clinical Trial Associate is the one who works with the pharma companies or the clinical research organizations or the CROs. And CRA is a person who works with the pharma company, the sponsor, or the CROs, and whose fundamental role is to audit the conduct of the clinical trial. So essentially, a CRA would go to the research site and audit whatever the trial and the documentation is maintained by the CRC. Okay. When you go on to become the senior CRA, so your scope increases, the number of studies and number of sites increase. And as you very well know that the assistant project manager and the project manager, so in terms of clinical trials, you essentially are whole and sole responsible for the conduct of the clinical trial. So that is in general the career trajectory, and that is the most basic question everyone asks, that from where should we start a career. That is
Yep.
why I wanted to mention.
Yeah.
The next aspect is in this particular series, we are also going to discuss about career opportunities in healthcare industry and what clinical research adds to it. So, fortunately or unfortunately, this pandemic has brought clinical research in the forefront of the public limelight, because people knew about clinical research but not essentially grasp the significance of it. So you should understand that if we saw in case of COVID-19 vaccine, it is very critical to conduct clinical trials, because no matter how promising your vaccine is, it is very important to test that vaccine for efficacy and safety, and then only you can use it for mass, how we can say, immunization programs. So
Mhm.
in healthcare industry, unfortunately, a lot of people do not know that clinical research has tremendous potential to provide employment. And unfortunately, I'm not aware the situation in Sweden, but in India, we have a lot of life sciences, pharma, biotech graduate, and they do not have the understanding or the awareness of clinical research or healthcare. They essentially go to the pharma company and academic research only. So for them also, we would help them understand how you can make a career out of clinical research based on your life sciences and pharma degree. And we would also talk about the how the salary and the financial situations will be, what are the growth opportunities in clinical research, because clinical research transcends any national international boundary. I can safely assume that, because
Mhm.
a lot of clinical trials are global in nature. So we conduct the clinical trial of the same molecule in India, in Sweden, in America, in Africa. So in terms of your growth opportunities, it is limitless. Okay, so clinical research is tremendous. And we also want to spread awareness through this particular video podcast, that uh, what are the advantages and disadvantages of the traditional pharma and biotech career, and how clinical research can give another option to the students, because in terms of traditional option we only have academic and industry, but there is a career in terms of clinical research that it offers a combination of academics as well as industry. So
Mhm.
clinical research essentially is driven by the sponsor, the industry, but the way we conduct the study, the way we collect the data, it falls under the academic study point of view, and even the statistical analysis which we do. So
Mhm.
people who are interested in a combination of both, to understand the fast pace of the industry, how the molecule is developed, as well as to academically see themselves if a particular medication is effective, and how first hand you can observe the effectiveness of the medication. So in terms of that, clinical research can be a very good career option. So that is why I wanted to introduce career opportunities in clinical research.
Yes.
Yeah.
And okay, so you would be the best to talk about
Yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So essentially, we thought that in our initial session, we should also discuss about the Indian as well as the Swedish clinical research scenario, because uh, the two countries being in two different continents, it is very important to
Yeah.
understand what are the challenges in Sweden as well as in India. So as we know that India is the largest pharma market as well as the world's pharmacy, so that we have the potential to manufacture medication which can serve the entire world, as well as we being 1.3 billion people, we are also one of the largest markets. So in terms of that, the pharma market, India is very well versed. Second thing is, as we have seen in COVID-19, that India was the production hub of all vaccines. So for any vaccine to produce or develop, you have to conduct clinical trial. And anyways, being 1/5 of the world population, you have to conduct clinical trials in India. So that clinical trial scenario is also bustling in India, and we have a great opportunity. And next thing is, even prior to the COVID-19 pandemic in 2019, the Indian government also had constructive and progressive amendments to the clinical trial rules in terms of the NDCT rules 2019, which essentially made the transition and the approval of the medication and the clinical trial more smoother, so that we can push the medication from the testing phase to the production phase. Okay, and that essentially helped during the pandemic. So that was the thing. And obviously there are challenges in the Indian clinical research scenario. So first and foremost, obviously there are a tremendous clinical trial. I can tell you hundreds of clinical trials being conducted, but unfortunately there is a lack of public portal where you could essentially look for clinical trials and participate, because awareness is one of the critical aspects of the clinical research. And when I say awareness, so it links me to the second point, that there is over representation of the lower income group, because even I have worked as a clinical research professional, and I've seen that almost 90% of the trial subjects are from the lower income group. Now, I am not clearly aware why that is, but over representation of that particular group of population could also have some kind of effects on the drug interaction, on the adverse event reporting. Because if you're going to focus on only one single population, so that would not essentially have a comprehensive safety and efficacy analysis. Next thing is, in terms of Indian clinical research population, there is over dependence on the rural population. So that could be due to the educational background, the availability of the subjects. But I can tell you proudly that the rural India is more supportive of the clinical research than the urban India. So that is something, as a professional, I am even proud and sad to say, because in cities like Pune, Mumbai, we do not have that much exposure or the willingness to participate in clinical trial. But in the rural areas, people are more inclined to help out by being study volunteers. So that is another challenge and opportunity for Indian clinical research. And lastly, that as we have seen in the past couple of months, there were uh, a lot of inspection. There were some ban of drugs. So unfortunately, these things happen when there is no comprehensive or frequent inspection by the regulatory authorities. So one of the challenge, in my opinion, would be to have more frequent CDSCO inspections, so that you maintain a level of standard in particular trial conduct. Indian trials work very well, and obviously we follow the RCA GCP. But I think that in order to cater patient safety and ensure the effectiveness, it is very important that our regulatory agency CDSCO needs to have a frequency inspection, so that we can get constructive analysis from the regulatory authorities also, and avoid any safety issues in the future. So these are essentially the pros and the cons and the challenges of the Indian clinical research scenario. So I would like to know from Aditi, what is it like in Sweden for clinical
Okay.
research?
Yeah, so the Swedish research, clinical research scenario also has its own advantages and disadvantages as well, or like we like to say, challenges, because
Yeah.
it's a challenge that we can try to work on. So, well, the Swedish clinical research scenario is such. So the advantages are that it's got like a number of very good academic hospitals and research centers, which become, like, and a lot of, like there is a Uppsala University, which is where I was studying, and there is the Karolinska Institute, and there are a number of like very good quality research centers which are also conducting a lot of path-breaking research. I mean, they are conducting, of course, a lot of interventional trials, and they're also conducting a lot of very interesting observational trials. They're very focused on neuroscience. They're very focused on these aspects that affect humanity and human psychology, and they're also interested in a number of other interventional trials with drugs, and many of them are at a very advanced level, so there is a lot of research going on. And there are a lot of pharmaceutical and contract research organizations which are in Sweden, and they're having a lot of a need for CRA, so that's an advantage. And one very big change I faced in Sweden, which I didn't have so much in India, because of course I've worked in India, I've worked in, is that we in Sweden is there's a large integration of pharmacometrics to clinical trials. Now, let me talk a little bit about pharmacometrics. Pharmacometrics is, I mean, we are going to have a session on this, but I just want to introduce it because it's maybe a new word for our viewers. So pharmacometrics is when you use mathematics. It's a field which integrates mathematics, statistics, and programming to pharmacokinetic and pharmacodynamic data, and these are used to build certain kind of mathematical models based on which one can take decisions. So I mean, in Uppsala especially, where I studied, is one of the largest centers of pharmacometrics, and there and this is a growing field in Sweden, in a lot of the global north, so to speak, because they have found that integrating mathematics and models and other computer programming is really a more advanced way of taking decisions, rather than just basing it on only observations. And of course, that is a challenge, but we are going to take that in our later series. But here I want to speak about the challenges of Sweden, which is kind of like the opposite of what it is in India. So patient recruitment is a very big challenge in Sweden, because one cannot get the variety of patients that in Sweden as they can in India, because oftentimes you have to put in a large number of incentives to actually recruit patients into a clinical trial. And over the years, there was a sharp reduction of new drug applications, which of course did affect clinical trials. But the Swedish medical authority has requested a large number of funding to this, because eventually, as we know, as we've discussed, if we don't have clinical trials, then a population is in danger. Then you don't have the number of treatments for your drug. You don't have a number of new developments which you need, and one needs to know how the local population reacts to a drug, because there are a lot of differences between how somebody who's of a different race may react to this drug as compared to somebody who's from here, grown up here. So with that's why that is a challenge which needs to be fixed. And sorry, yeah, we're going to be talking. So I want to kind of conclude this series with the upcoming discussions that we plan to have. And this is a collaboration between both our channels, because both of us have had similar as well as very different experiences in the clinical research industry. And so we plan to have upcoming discussions such as regulations governing clinical trials. So in basically we want to talk about global regulations,
Regulatory
Indian,
authorities and the
yes,
rules,
the
essentially.
different kind of global regulations, regulatory authorities, rules which are in India, in Sweden, and around the world. And then one thing I would like to introduce, because this is very much my passion, is machine learning and its application to clinical research. And we are talking about statistical analysis of clinical research data, and phase trials and data analysis, which is of course because we're going to be individually taking every phase and how the data at that phase is analyzed. And then the electronic CRF design, which is basically the databases, like an electronic data capturing, and its applications in clinical research, and the other data elements and privacy elements for clinical trials, and also other aspects, challenges and futures of clinical trials. And so we are hoping we can make videos on this regularly and make this an entire series which talks about every aspect of clinical trials. And I think I'd also like to conclude by saying that we are really open with our viewers suggesting different kind of topics they want us to discuss if we've not already included it at this phase. And I mean, if you want, then if you feel that you want us to discuss something, then do write it on the comments, and then we can include it in the series.
Of course,
So
and while concluding, let me say that in clinical research, the conduct of the clinical trial, even people might be aware in some part of the world. But in this new data age, what are the newer application? For example, Aditi could shed light on machine learning, how statistical analysis functions in clinical research. Because essentially, going forward, we are going to be much smarter, much data driven. So how statistical analysis and data affects different phases of the clinical trial? How are the data integration softwares made? What are the algorithms used? As well as what are the challenges in terms of data privacy, in terms of data elements, and as well as other type of challenges. So there are a lot of topics in terms of clinical research and its analysis. So that would be our focus. And obviously, as Diti correctly said, that we are open to discussion of another topic. So we invite all of you to actively participate in all of our channels, respective channels. So please subscribe and participate so that we can help each other. We can create this particular forum, and through this we can progress and suggest a clinical trial, because essentially you, me, and we all are the future of clinical research, and it is very important to have a very well-rounded opinion, collective analysis, so that essentially helps the entire industry and humanity by extension. So yeah, this is the conclusion from me.
Mhm. Yes, and it would be really interesting to interact with a lot of other clinical research professionals
Yeah,
in and around India,
correct.
around the world. So I hope that this can be an interactive session for all of us.
Yes,
And
and I
yeah,
would like to mention that Aditi has good content on her channel, and even I have my channel. So please go and check those videos out, and please suggest what we could do. Anyways, we have given you the roadmap ahead, so we are going to bring you very exciting, cutting edge content on it. And yeah, thank you for watching this video and helping us out. And let's hope we take clinical research forward. So yeah,
okay,
thank you.
okay. So that was a great discussion between two of us, and
Yeah, yeah.
we are looking forward to more discussions. So see you Saurabh soon, and I'm really excited for this series.